All right, video of some more of the midterm review. I'm going to do a lot of this chapter 3 and 4, probably not all of it, as you'll find out, but enough. So the first part says evaluate the determinant. If it's a 2 by 2 determinant, remember all we did, we're going to multiply this way, multiply that way, and it subtracts. So I'm going to say 5 times 3 is 15, 2 times 5 is 10, and it's 5. That's all there is to it. Part B is a 3 by 3. That is where we recopied the first column out here. We're using diagonals. Recopy the second column, and then I'm going to go diagonally here. I'm going down this row right there, that diagonal, and I get 100 when I multiply that way. Now I'm going down this one, get 10. You add when you go in this direction. 3 times 1 times 4 is 12. Then I'm going to start going the other direction. I'm going to go 1 times 5. When you go that direction, you start subtracting. 4 times 2 times 4 is 32. Subtract it. 3 times 5 times 5, 75. And then all you do is you combine all those. 122. I should have brought my calculator. 122 minus 5 is 117. Minus 32 is 85. Minus 75, 10. Pretty sure. Double check my math there, but I think that's pretty good. We did a bunch like 40 in class today, solving with inverse mode. We did 1 or 2 with inverse matrices. This is a 2 by 2, which is even easier. Remember, that's the kind where we set up, I'll set it up for you. We set up you put the coefficients in one matrix, you put the x, y in the other matrix, and then you put the constants in the other one, the 211 and 183. And all you do is you take the inverse of this one and multiply by that one over there. Same thing on 41. Not sure why so many of these are on here. That's probably assigned to you, to maybe probably a couple of those on your test. So make sure you're good at that with your calculator. Come see me if you need more help. 42 A, B, and C we're graphing. These are all parabolas. So what I know here is the x-intercepts are 4 and 6. So I'm going to put a point at 4. I can't really see my graph. I think that's 4. 6 is there. What that tells me is I know the vertex is halfway between the two. So the vertex is 5 something, because it has to be exactly halfway between those two x-intercepts. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to plug a 5 in here where the x's are. And if I plug a 5 in there, I get 3 times 1 times negative 1, which is negative 3. So my vertex is 5, negative 3, which is about down here somewhere. So that means my parabola is going to look just like that. And it was a parabola because it had 2 x's, which is an x squared, which is a parabola. Okay, go to 42b. This one's already ready. I'm just going to shift like we've been doing. Shift right 2 and down 3. You know, the gesture for that. There's a negative in the front, which means it's going to go down. I'm always going to put in 1 point to the right of the vertex. So I'm going to go to 3 on the x. If I go to 3 on the x, that gives me 1 inside my parentheses. 1 squared is 1. There's, with a negative in front, that's negative 1 minus 3. Which is negative 4. So if I go to the right, if I put in 3, I got negative 4, which is right here. And because it's symmetric, that means there's also a point right there. Graph your parabola going down. Got it. Next one, another parabola. Same deal. Right 1 up 2, about right there, my vertex. I'm going to go to the right side. I'm going to plug in 2. If I plug in 2, 2 minus 1 is 1. And 1 squared is 1. Plus 2 is 3. So I plugged in 2, and I got 3. So 2, 3, which is right here. And because it's symmetric, there's another point right there. All you need, graph your parabola, and you got it. 43, factor the expression. So this one I'm looking for factors of 12 that add up to be 7. That's 4 and 3. So you just put x plus 4, x plus 3. All there is to that one. 44, factor completely. Factors of negative 40, that would give me positive 3. It's going to be plus 8 and minus 5. Make sure that 8 is the one that's positive. I think that's all I have on this slide. Looking good. Keep going. 45, solve the equation. I'm going to do that like I just did. I'm going to factor that one. But before I do that, I'm moving everything over to that side. So I have x squared minus 11x plus 24. When everything comes over, remember the signs change. Factors of 24 that add up to be negative 11 or negative 8 and negative 3. So I get these two answers. Don't forget to put your answers down, 8 and 3. 46, same way, except it's already set up for you. I need factors of 24 that add up to be 10, which are minus 6, minus 4. So my two solutions would be 6 and 4. Solve using factor. Again, factors of 8 that have to be negative 2, x minus 4, x plus 2. So x is 4 and negative 2. Keep going, more factoring. These are pretty quick. 48a is difference of squares. which you take the square root of each number and think 1 plus and 1 minus. You're really writing conjugates right there. 7x plus 4, 7x minus 4. Same thing on C. C is weird. Take the square root of each one. 8y plus 7, 8y minus 7. That's all you can do. 49 says solve. Every time you start to solve something by factoring or factor anything, you should always take out the GCF first. That's the first thing, the great chunk. So take out the x. That leaves an x minus 6. So the two answers to that, what would make the parentheses 0 is 6. What would make that factor 0? 0 would. So your two answers are 6 and 0. More. Solve using factoring. Now this is going to be slide, divide, slide. Moving the 3 over there, slide it. That gives me negative 36 when I slide it. Now because you have a 1 in the front, we're going to factor. So I'm looking for factors of 36. They have a difference of 5, which is plus 9 and minus 4. After you slide, now I'm going to divide by the same number I slid. I'm going to divide both numbers by 3. Now because I know 9 divided by 3 is 3, I'm just going to put 3 for the first factor. The second one, I can't do 4/3, so I'm going to slide the 3 back in front. 3x minus 4, that equals 0. So my two solutions are negative 3, and even from down here I can look, it was 4/3. If you don't know how to do this, you do the opposite of that number over that one to get your answer, or you can find it down here where you divide. That kind of tells you what it is too. All right, 51, simplify the expression. You got two radicals multiplied together. I would go ahead and break them down. For example, 50 is 25 times 2. 10 is 5 times 2. And I usually wouldn't break that one down, except I already had a 2 there. So you'll see what's going to happen. Square root of 25 is 5. Because I have square root of 2 square root of 2, that would be square root of 4, which is 2. Anytime you have the same square root twice, you can just take it out. I have a 3. And the only square root I have left is square root of 5. So I'm going to multiply all those numbers in the front. Let's see. 20 times 2, 20 times 6 is 120 on the square root of 5. And that's it. Next one, 52. Divide by 3 first. If you divide 147 divided by 3, you get 49. That's convenient because you got to get rid of the square. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Don't forget when you take the square root side that you put plus or minus in front of your answer. Plus or minus 49. 53 is next. I'm assuming that says solve. It does say solve. Move the 29 over. I'm going to isolate the x squared as I solve this. So if I move the 29 over, that would give me 66. Divide by 3. So we get x minus 8 squared is 22. Now I'm just going to take the square root of both sides. And when I do that, I'm out of room here. So I'm going to come up here to the top to finish this one. I'm going to get x minus 8 on the left side. On the right side, plus or minus square root of 22. So to finish up, just move your 8 to the other side. So I get 8 plus or minus square root of 22. And that's it. On the next one, very similar to that one. Two of those, that should be a hint to you probably. Move the 17 over. So I have 3 times x plus 7 squared equals 42. Divide by 3. Remember, we're isolating the square. If you divide by 3, you get 14. Again, square root both sides. I'm going to come back to the top here. And I will get x plus 7 equals, don't forget, plus or minus square root of 14. My square root didn't show up down there. And then move the 7 to the other side. So I get x is negative 7 plus or minus square root of 14. And that's all there is to that one. 54, getting into some imaginary stuff now. It says addition, so I'm just going to add straight across. I'm going to add my negative 3 and negative 5. That's negative 8. Now I'm going to add my negative 8 and negative 7. That's negative 15. That's it. Part B is the longest thing we did with, and C is with the imaginaries. When we divided, you have to multiply by the conjugate, which is 3 plus 4i. On the bottom, remember when you multiply by conjugates, you can just do, I'm going to come up here a little bit, out of room again. So as I multiply those, I get 9 minus 16i squared on the bottom. I squared, remember, is really negative 1, so it's really 9 plus 16, or 25. On the top, do FOIL first, outer, inner, and last. And don't leave it like that. Remember, I squared is negative 1, so it's really a negative 28. 24, negative 28 is negative 4. and add your two i's in the middle. 32i plus 21i, 53i. And that's B. I'm going to skip C. It works exactly the same way. You can try that one if you want to. If you want me to post the answer later or give you the answer, we can do that. All right. Number 55. Write an equation in the form, vertex form. Then graph, state the vertex, axis symmetry, two additional points. Okay. So I'm going to take this equation, y equals x squared plus 6x. Now, you know what you need to do. Go ahead and group those two. Leave the 11 out here. And you have to complete the square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take half the middle, which would be 3, square it, which would be 9. Instead of adding it to both sides, I'm going to add it to in there and subtract it out there. I think you remember us doing that. So my parentheses now is just x plus 3. Whatever the half was always goes in there. 11 minus 9 is 2. There's my vertex form. That's the answer to the first question. Y equals x plus 3 squared plus 2. Graph it over here. I'm going to go to negative. My vertex is negative 3, 2. So I'm going to go to negative 3, 2. The graph is tiny. About right there. The axis of symmetry always goes right through the vertex. The axis of symmetry would do that. That is the line x equals negative 3. It's always the same thing as your parentheses, always the same thing as your x coordinate. And this parabola opens up, so I'm going to go, like I did earlier, I'm going to go 1 point to the right, which would actually be negative 2. So I'm going to put negative 2 right in there. If I put negative 2 in there, it gives me 1 squared, which is 1, plus 2 is 3. So one of the point is negative 2, 3, which would be about up there, I guess, about right there. And because it's symmetric, if I go to the other side, I'm also going to 3. So that would be negative 4, 3. And there are my other 2 points. 56, use the quadratic formula. I'm going to do these. I'm going to do B because it looks a little tougher. You can go back and do A. Quadratic formula looks like x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I'm just going to fill that in. X equals negative b, which would be negative 5, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 25, minus 4ac, which is negative 1, all over 2a, 2 times 2. So you get negative 5 plus or minus 33 inside over 4. And because you can't break down 33, you're done so. Right? Down here it says solve. If you can factor, that's the best way. Complete the square maybe, or do quadratic formula. That's up to you. I think this one right here factors. I think I could go x plus 8, x minus 2. Yeah, that's perfect. So my 2 answers are negative 8 and 2. This one, I'm going to move the 16 over. X, because I think it'll factor also, just looking at it, plus 16. I'm looking at it like what factors of 16 give me 8? It'd be x plus 4 and x plus 4. Hey, so I get x is negative 4. All right, 58 has got some quadratic inequalities. I'm going to do the first one, maybe the second one, and leave the rest to you because they're pretty much all the same. You can decide how you want to graph it. You can do negative b over 2a. You can factor it. I'm going to choose to factor, so I'm going to go y equals, I'm going to factor out the negative. I'm actually going to factor out negative x. What that would leave me with is an x plus 4, which tells me what my 2 zeros are, which is important, my x-intercepts. One's going to be at 0 because of the x. The other one's going to be at negative 4 because of the x plus 4. Which means my vertex is in the middle of that, which is negative 2 something. So the way I'm going to find that is I'm going to plug the negative 2 either back at the top or in what we factored right there. It doesn't really matter. If I plug negative 2 at the top up here, I'll get a negative 2 squared minus 4 times negative 2. One thing I know about this parabola is going down, so I know the vertex is up in quadrant 2 somewhere. Negative 2 squared is 4. That's going to be a negative 4 plus 8. Negative 4 plus 8 is 4, so the vertex is right there at negative 2, 4. It's opening down. It's solid because it has an equals. Now, that one goes through 0, 0 for sure. So the point I told you to pick anyway is this one right here, down below it. That point is negative 2, 0. So I would plug that one in, see what happens. And I'll probably plug it down here at the bottom. So I'm going to say 0 over here. I'm going to plug negative 2 over here, which would be negative 2. And then if I put negative 2 inside my parentheses, that's just going to be 2. Multiply that out, you get 0 is less than 4. That's true, which means the point does work. So I'm going to shade inside that parabola. That's all there is to it. Let's do one more of those. Let's try the B part, and I'll leave the rest up to you. Part B, first I'm going to factor out the negative first. I don't know why I keep putting equals. It's greater than. Factor out the negative. That makes everything positive. X squared plus 3x plus 4. I think that it doesn't factor. So that one, sorry about that. Can't do it that way. Gonna have to go back and do the old fashioned. I'm going to have to do negative b over 2a on this one. So I'm going to do negative b, which would be positive 3 over 2a, which is 2 times negative 1. So my vertex is going to be negative 3 halves something. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch that in my calculator up here, which I do not have with me. Let's see if I can do it real quick. It's going to be negative 3 halves squared is 9 fourths. So it's going to be negative 9 fourths plus 9 halves minus 4. I'm going to run through that in my head real quick. That's negative 9 fourths plus 18 fourths, which is 9 fourths minus 36 fourths. Sorry, minus 16 fourths. I got lost. Let me try it one more time. Negative 9 fourths plus 18 fourths is 9 fourths minus 16 fourths, which is negative 7 fourths. So let's go with negative 7 fourths. My vertex is negative 3.5, negative 1 3 fourths. So I'm going to say, about negative 3 halves, negative 7 fourths, about right there. It's going to open down again, so I know it's not going through 0, 0 for sure. Parabola's going to go down, and if I plug in 0, 0 in this one, the right hand side becomes 0, the x's go away, all it leaves is negative 4. Is 0 greater than negative 4? Yes it is. So 0, 0 did work, so you would shade everything outside. That was a little bit tougher. Alright, let's keep going. 59, solve the inequality, state your solution, both inequality and interval notation. Okay, this one I'm going to move the 20 over, so I get x squared plus 8x minus 20 greater than 0. Factor it, get x plus 10, x minus 2, and here's how I taught you to do this one. Two ways. You can graph that if you want to, and graph your parabola. One way I showed you was do like a little number line sine graph, and put your zeros. The zeros are 2 and negative 10, so put negative 10 on there and put 2. Okay, think about where 0 is in between negative 10 and 2. So if you plug 0 in here and plug it in right here, you get negative 20 is greater than 0. Sorry, you just get negative 20 on the left-hand side, which is what I want to know, which means everything between those two is negative, everything out here is positive, everything out there is positive, and what I'm looking for is positive because it's greater than 0. So the answer is this: everything less than or equal to negative 10, or everything greater than 2 is where the positive numbers are. Interval notation, you would say negative infinity to negative 10, bracket, and also 2 to infinity. And that's it. 60, write that in a form. We've done that already, one like that. Write the quadratic function in appropriate form at the given points. All right, let's go part B first. May come back to the other one, see what, this video's maybe lasting too long. This one says the vertex is negative 6, 4. So I'm going to go vertex form, y equals a, x plus 6 minus 4. And it passes through that point. The reason it passes through that point is because it works in the equation. So I'm going to put the 12 in for the y, the negative 2 in for the x, and work it out. I'm going to move the first thing I'm doing is taking this negative 4 to the other side, make it positive 4, which is 16. I forgot the square. In here I have 4 squared, which is also 16. So a is 1. So my equation is going to look like y equals 1, which I'm not going to write, x plus 6 squared minus 4. All there is on that one. Let's look at that first one again. Okay, this first one, what I know is, I know that the y-intercept is negative 4. So what that tells me is if I start to write this, y equals ax squared plus bx, I know my last term over here is negative 4 for sure. And I also know it goes through these points. So I'm going to plug those in. So I'm going to say like negative 3. Well, let's do the x first. So I'm going to do a times negative 1 squared plus b times negative 1 minus 4 has to equal the y, which is negative 3. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to plug in a negative 2 for the x's, negative 2 squared plus b times negative 2. I think that is a negative 2. That's actually just a 2. I can't tell. And then minus 4 equals the y, which is a 6. So I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to move the 4 over in each equation. I'm going to go ahead and work out the left-hand side. Negative 1 squared is 1a minus 1b equals 1. That's the first equation. That's this one. The second one is going to be 4a plus 2b. I'm moving the 4 over. That's 10. So now I'm just going to do elimination and figure out what my a and b are. So I'm going to multiply the top equation by 2. 2a minus 2b is 2. Second equation, 4a plus 2b is 10. Add them up, that's gone. 6a is 12, which means a is 2. And by plugging it in over there, if a is 2, that means b is 1. And I already know what c is. C is negative 4. So my equation, after all that, is going to look just like this. It's going to be y equals, what was a again? A is 2. 2x squared. B is 1. X. C is negative 4. There it is. There's your equation. That's a little tougher. Okay, and then we get to chapter 5, which we'll work on tomorrow. So hope that helps you a little bit. See you in class tomorrow. We'll try to finish up chapter 5. Should be fresh.